There is a common saying that goes, "In space, no one can hear you scream." That is true. It has nothing to do with the screamer, but the non-existence of a medium through which sound can travel. This means something could explode right beside you in space and you would not even notice unless you saw the flash of the explosion or some debris flying towards you. However, luckily for us, sound is a mechanical wave, and we can record the frequency of those waves and convert them into sound, just as we have done with the planets, moons, comets, and stars on this list. Please grab your headphones because you are in for a surprise. It is a good thing that we cannot hear the sound of the sun. If we could, we would hear a deep and low humming sound that quickly becomes irritating and may even cause a headache if it goes on for too long. We know how the sun sounds thanks to NASA and the European Space Agency, which teamed up to record the frequency of the waves caused by the materials moving on the sun. They passed the data over to Stanford University's experimental physics lab, which converted it into the sound you can hear right now. On August 27, 2016, NASA's Juno spacecraft recorded the sound of the Aurora along one of the Jupiter's poles. That sound is probably the creepiest one on this list. It sounds like the soundtrack of a Halloween movie. This is not a surprise to astronomers, considering Jupiter's auroras have the strongest energetic particles in our solar system. On September 2, 2017, NASA's Cassini spacecraft recorded the sound of the plasma waves exiting Saturn and traveling to its rings and one of its moons, Enceladus. The sound is not as creepy as Jupiter's aurora, but it's equally difficult to describe. Comet 67P, or Churyumov-Gerasimenko, is called the Singing Comet because it makes a weird clicking sound that closely mimics the sound made by dolphins. As you will hear in the video, the comet makes an eerie sound that can be mistaken for a gust of earth wind but overlaid with a repeated clicking sound. Scientists believe 67P's sound is the result of the vibrating plasma in its magnetic field. However, the sound is strange because it's different from the sounds made by other comets. On November 26, 2018, NASA's InSight lander landed on Mars. On December 1st the same year, it recorded the sound of wind blowing on Mars. The sound is a relaxing, low-pitched note that will make your ears vibrate when you listen to it with a headphone. Before we begin, we need to mention that there are two sides of the moon. There is the bright near side, which always faces the Earth, and the dark far side, which is only visible to a person or spacecraft orbiting the moon. In 1969, astronauts on board the Apollo 10 mission, which flew 3 months before Neil Armstrong's Apollo 11, recorded the sounds of the far side of the moon as they orbited it. The sound has a creepy whoo sound the astronauts described as weird. It was unlike anything they had ever heard.
That is easy to keep it sound outer spacey, doesn't it? Do you hear that whistling sound?
We already talked about the sound made by Jupiter's Aurora. However, as we can see and hear, the Aurora is not the only part of Jupiter that makes a sound. It is Ionosphere, the point where its atmosphere meets space, makes one too. NASA's Juno spacecraft recorded the sound as it approached Jupiter on February 20, 2017. However, we should add that the sound was not created by the ionosphere itself, but it is the result of Jupiter's magnetic field deflecting charged solar winds from the Sun. Ganymede is the largest moon in our solar system. It is as big as a planet and would have been considered one if it was not orbiting Jupiter. Like everything Jupiter, Ganymede makes its own creepy sounds too. The sound we are talking about here is the sound of its magnetosphere, which refers to the part of the atmosphere that protects an astronomical object from the magnetic field of a nearby but larger astronomical object. In Ganymede's case, that nearby object is Jupiter. Uranus and Neptune rank among the least noisy gas giants out there. The other two, Jupiter and Saturn, are considerably noisier. However, noise is relative as far as gas giants go. These planets are filled with gases and fluids and do not have land, so you should expect to hear never-ending wind noise if you ever manage to find yourself in one. As we have mentioned before about Ganymede, every planet has a magnetosphere. Earth has one too, and it contains 2 rings of plasma we call the Van Allen radiation belt. The sound of the radiation belt is inaudible to our ears. However, like every other sound we have mentioned so far, we can pick it up with instruments.